So we continue on the 2021 season reviews. I keep saying season previews, but it's season reviews with the Dallas Stars, a team who made the Stanley Cup Finals last season. And relatively, I was a big fan of them making the finals last season. I was very entertained by that Stanley Cup Finals run. In fact, I was even rooting for them. This season, on the other hand, it really didn't go their way relatively. A lot of things were in their favor, and honestly, for part of the season, I don't really blame them, to be honest, but there is some fault in some areas. But first off, if you're new to the channel and you're already subscribed, please make sure to do that as we're trying to get to 900 subscribers by the start of next season. I really would appreciate it. That would be great for me because, 100 away from 1,000 would be great to make it there before I turn 15 years old. That would actually be amazing. Yeah, if you could subscribe, I really appreciate it. And anyways, I won't waste any more of your time. Let's get into the video. So this season for the Dallas Stars was nothing less but a crazy year. 23, 19, and 14 with 50 points. A .536 winning percentage, a +4 in the difference ratio, 158 goals scored, 154 goals allowed, and at home they were 13, 7, and 8, so they were pretty dang good at home. And on the road they were 10, 12, and 6. So, let's get into some factors before we talk about the bad stuff. The factors were they had a COVID outbreak at the beginning of the season, which caused them to be delayed a little bit. So their schedule was even more tightened, more than it was before. And I mean, everyone was going through tight schedules, but the Stars were one of the worser teams. And then you had those storms in Texas where it snowed more than it's ever snowed before. From what I remember, it snowed more than I've ever seen in Texas. So obviously they got a couple games canceled there. They've had games rescheduled because of other teams canceling their, getting on COVID protocol and, all that stuff. And yeah, they went through rough patches. They were playing like every day, and then they would have a day off, and then they played 2 days in a row, a day off, a day in a row, a day off, two games in a row, a day off. They didn't have much time between games. They only had at max a day between games. And I mean, you had some days where it was 2 days between games, but it was pretty rare. So you obviously had a very busy regular season, of course. And you know what? That didn't stop some bright spots from the Dallas Stars. And personally, I think that if, the schedule and it doesn't snow in Texas again, and, they get the right guys re-signed, and, maybe they go out in free agency, get the right guys signed, all that good stuff, I think they will bounce back next season. So your skating leaders is Joe Pavelski, who is 35 years old, and he's still leading this team with 25 goals, 26 assists for 51 points. You could argue he was the best player on the Dallas Stars this season. Another one of those entertaining guys to watch. It's really fun watching these guys. It really is fun watching the Dallas Stars. I love their jerseys. I love their play. They're just every aspect. I love them. Jason Robertson, a rookie who kind of wasn't really looked at as a guy who was going to be top 3 in rookie goal scoring. 17 goals, 28 assists for 45 points. A nearly 20-goal season. On a full season, that's probably 25 goals out of Jason Robertson there. So I'm pretty excited to see what he will do next season. And it's obviously going to be very entertaining because I think, you got rising young guys coming out of Dallas there. You got Heiskanen, you have Roope Hintz, now you have Robertson too rising up to the plate, and Jacob Ottinger as well in net. It's looking pretty good for the Dallas Stars tonight. Speaking of Roope Hintz, he is third in goal scoring with 15 goals, 28 assists for 43 points. Obviously another player who took a step up this season. Another one of those entertaining guys to watch for the Stars team. Fourth in scoring was John Klingberg with 7 goals, 29 assists for 36 points. One of those underrated defensemen in the NHL. Yeah, I'm putting him under the underrated category. I think that not many people talk about Robertson. I've never seen any reports on Robertson talking about how good of a player he is. I just personally think that, he's a pretty dang good player. So, it's entertaining to watch him and other players on this team. Fifth in scoring was Jamie Benn with 11 goals, 24 assists for 35 points. Obviously, the captain of the team still putting up the point totals that are somewhat decent. That's a 60-point season right there if it's a full 82-game season at best, which it looks like we probably will have next season. So, as for your rookies, Jason Robertson, I obviously mentioned. Joel Kiviranta, who is making his full start to a season after scoring, how many goals did he score in the playoffs? He scored it was 3 or 4 goals in the playoffs as a rookie. He scored that hat trick in Game 7 against Colorado. He had 6 goals, 5 assists for 11 points. So he's proved to be a solid bottom 6 forward in the NHL, and I think that's pretty exciting. Honestly, for a guy like him who didn't look like much of anything and kind of came out of nowhere and, turned into someone good. Ty Dellandrea was another rookie. 3 goals, 2 assists for 5 points for him. Obviously, another solid rookie for that Stars team. Now we move on to the goalies. Jacob Ottinger. Ottinger wasn't looked at as a good player, in all honesty. They weren't looked at as, a player that was going to, become a starter in the future. And you know what? After this season, after how Anton Kudovan played and what Ben Bishop is looking to go through, I think he will be the starter next season. 11 wins, 8 losses, and 7 overtimes for a 2.36 goals against average, a .911 save percentage, and very good. For a guy who kind of came out of nowhere, wasn't really well known. And ignore the 7 on the last column because just about every other game was an overtime game for them. They faced more overtime games than I've ever seen before, so kind of unbelievable. But personally, I just think that he is going to be a big role in this team. And there's Anton Kudovan as well, with 12 wins, 11 losses, and 7 overtimes for a 2.54 goals against average and a .905 save percentage. So not as good as a year for Kudovan as it was in the playoffs, but not terrible either. So I think relatively you look at this team and you say to yourself, this team's pretty exciting. If they can sign the right people to keep back on this team for next season, they could look like a decent cup contender, in all honesty. Of course, if they're going to have a better schedule next season, they're going to have, they'll have back-to-back games at times, of course, but they're obviously going to have more days off between games, and, they're going to have more time to rest instead of being worn out pretty much every single day. So, that's it for the season. Basically, but they didn't make the playoffs, but they weren't that far out of making the playoffs. When you look at Nashville statistics, they made a good push. If they didn't have the bad start, which wasn't even their fault in all honesty because of their tight schedule, I think this team did make the playoffs, but they just got smothered out, and that happens sometimes. That is it for the season review. Now you move on to the UFAs and RFAs. So your UFAs for the Dallas Stars are Andrew Cogliano, Justin Dowling, Simi Vatanen, Jamie Alexiak, Mart Pysyk, Tyler Fedun, and Landon Bow. So Cogliano they'll bring back. I think he was a solid forward for this team. Dowling, potentially. Vatanen, it wouldn't be terrible to bring Vatanen back, but it may be a rental off of waivers. So if they re-sign Vatanen, I wouldn't complain. Don't be surprised. But I'm not really sure where they go with that, to be honest. As for Alexiak, I think he might walk. I haven't heard anything about Dallas being close in contract talks with him, so I think he's on his way out. Pysyk, probably gone. Fedun, probably. Bow, they'll probably keep around as a third goalie. But I don't know, because they're going to move at least one of these goalies out, whether it's Bishop or Kudovan. I think they're going to choose one of them to move out of Dallas. As for RFAs, Jason Dickinson, Joel Kiviranta, Miro Heiskanen, Adam McCurskin, Kamano, Julius Honka, Gleason, Sacconi, Rosberg, and Colton Point. So as for Jason Dickinson, that could be Seattle's pick, actually, so you got to look at that. Kiviranta, you're definitely going to want to sign him. He was a solid rookie this season. Heiskanen, one of your best defensemen. You're obviously going to lock him up for at least a couple years. Sharon, wouldn't hurt to bring him back. Kamano, maybe they let him walk. Honka, they probably bring back. Gleason, Sacconi, Rosberg, and Colton Point. If they let all those guys walk, it wouldn't surprise me. But I think the most important guy on that list is Heiskanen. Re-sign Heiskanen. I don't know how you sign him, whether it's like long-term or it's a bridge deal because of the flat cap, but you absolutely need to sign Miro Heiskanen to at least a solid contract. And for Kiviranta as well, definitely. So that's your review for Dallas. Honestly, this team is probably is definitely top 5 of my favorites. They're really entertaining to watch. I like generally their entire team and all the moves that they've brought in, like bringing in their new coach, or not their new coach, bringing in what's his name, their coach that coached them to the finals last season. I just love this team all the way around, and I'm very entertained to see how this team will do next season. Just kind of a down year relatively for some standards. As I said in previous videos, if you don't have a winning record on the road, you don't make the playoffs. So thank you all for watching. For our support as late on these videos. Next up will be the Detroit Red Wings. That will be next week. And we'll probably just get done the teams that have missed the playoffs. And by then, free agency would have started, and that's the deadline to have at least the majority of these done. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching. For our support as of late. And I'll see you guys in the next video.